That's just me. That's me. That's me. So here are all of our transformations. Okay. Now we threw the D on there for you. Okay. But that's what the flip video for Monday is going to entail. Is that D part. Okay. So far we've dealt with A, the amplitude. Okay. That's vertical stretching or shrinking. Compressing, I guess, would be a better way of saying it. Okay. We've dealt with B. B is the period. So how long it takes to get back to the same position. Okay. C shift is that horizontal shift. Okay. So we're going to shift that horizontally. And then D, that changes our middle. So that's going to be our vertical shift. We're not going to deal with that today. Again, that is what the flip video for this weekend is going to be all about. Okay? So, we'll refer back to this numerous times today. So, if you don't have it yet, you be good. Okay? So, here is the first one. Now, this is on your note sheet from yesterday yet. If you want to do it on there, that's fine. If you just want to do it in your notebook, that's fine too. Okay? Totally up to you as to where and when and how you want to do it. Okay? Now, the first thing that you're going to look at is you're going to look at it in terms of you're going to see all of this. Okay? So I wonder, copy, and then if I could just do like this and paste, and luckily it's still a sign. This is riveting internet going on right now. Oh, look at that. So pretty. So pretty. Okay, so there's that, right? So what can you see from it? Well, you can see a couple of things. The first thing that draws to my attention is the fact that we've got to factor out that B value. Okay? We don't just pull it out, we have to factor it out. Okay? So this would then become y equals sine of, what are you going to factor out? 2. Yep, because I want to get that x by itself. So I'm going to open up another parentheses. Inside of that parentheses, if I factor a 2 out of this one, that's going to be leave me with x minus, and what about this one? What if I factor a 2 out of pi divided by 4? Which one? Pi over 8 is a possibility. Or it could be pi over 2. Okay. It's going to be probably one of those, right? Okay. Hopefully you don't go pi over 6. You don't just add those numbers. Okay. So let's figure out which one it is. If I did this distributing, and I did 2 times pi over 2, what do I get out? Or what do I get? You get 2 pi over 2, right? Which is just pi. Is pi the same as pi over 4? No. So then let's try 2 times pi over 8. That's going to be 2 pi over 8, which is pi over 4. So we're going to go with pi over 8 here. Okay. Now we can answer some questions. Question number 1 is, what is my amplitude? 1. Okay? Which makes, so then now I can answer middle, low, and high. Right? So where's the middle of this function? 0. Which makes the low of this function be -1, which makes the high of this function be? Bless you. Give you a couple of seconds to process that. I have to get better with my wait time. Good? Okay. What's the period of this function? How'd you come up with pi?
Well, to find the value, you do 2 pi divided by the absolute value of b. So 2 pi divided by 2.
Agree? Okay, so my period is pi. Okay. Where am I going to start my curve? Pi over 8. I think oppositely of that one because it's in parentheses. I think opposite, so I'm going to start at pi over 8. Okay. If I start at pi over 8 and my period is pi, where do I end? Agree with 9 pi over 8. Agree with that? How'd you get it?
Well, here is pi, so that can be simplified as 8 pi, or 8 over 8, or 8 pi over 8. So then if you add that onto the pi over 8, that'd be 9 pi over 8.
Okay. Now, if you watched the videos yesterday, which all of you watched the videos yesterday in class, if you were in class, Mrs. Hill sets her points first because she's a much better drawer than I am. Okay? Me, I set my curve first and then set my points. How you do it is how you do it. Okay? This is a normal, non-reflected sine curve that's going to start not at 0, but somewhere in the positive range. So I'm going to make a normal sine curve that looks like that. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it over just a little bit because then you can see it a little bit better. Okay? Now I am going to set my verticalness points. So my high is at 1, so I go all the way up to 1. My low is at -1, so I go all the way down to -1. And my middle was 0. Okay? I started at pi over 8. I ended at 9 pi over 8. Halfway between them would be what? 5 pi over 8. Pi over 8 plus 9 pi over 8 is 10 pi over 8. Divided by 2 is 5 pi over 8. Okay? If I want to, or if you want to have those, then this would be 6 divided by 2 is 3 pi over 8. 14 divided by 2 is 7 pi over 8. Yes? Questions on that one? Fantastic. what I would like you to try now is I would like you to try this one. It's a good one. So, first off, I would factor out a 3 inside the sign parentheses. So if I factor out a 3, that leaves me with x minus...
Pi over 6 takes 10.
Agree with pi over 6.
Yes.
Okay. Amplitude. Middle.
0.
Low. High.
2.
Agree with those 4. I kind of like to write those down every time, but that's just me. Again, crazy like that. Or, what did you say? Weird like that? Odd like that. Odd. Odd's a nice word. It's a nice way of saying, Linz, you crazy. So this is going to be 2 pi divided by the absolute value of 3, right? So my period is going to be 2 pi over 3, correct? Yes. Where am I going to start? That's a great question. Why do we start at pi over 6?
Because that's what's said before. Or the x minus pi over 6 is the opposite of that. So your c value changes where you start.
C value changes where you start. Yep. Okay. B value changes your period. A value changes how far up and far down you go. Okay. D value is going to change where that middle is. So it's going to vertically shift everything. Okay? So if my period is 2 pi over 3, and I am not starting until pi over 6, I have to add those two together to figure out where I'm ending, correct? So 2 pi over 3 plus pi over 6. Got to have common denominators, so let's go with 6ths. So that's going to be 4 pi over 6, right? So I'm actually ending at 5 pi over 6. Because we have a negative a value, we are actually reflected in the x-axis, correct? So instead of sign going up, sign is going to go down first. Agree? Okay, now let's fill some stuff in. Start was pi over 6. End was 5 pi over 6, right? Which puts my middle at what? Three pi over 6, which is pi over 2. Okay? But think about this as 3 pi over 6.
If we left it as 3 pi over 6, how would we it?
Mark it wrong? Yeah. I'm mean. 97.5%, remember? Okay. Okay. So then my other two, the halves of the halves, right? So 1 plus 3 is 4. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So this is 2 pi over 6, which is pi over 3. 3 plus 5 is 8. Divided by 2 is 4. So it's 4 pi over 6, which is 2 pi over 3. Vertically now, this is going to be negative 2. This is going to be positive 2. Middle is 0. Yes, ma'am.
Would you shift the vertical axis only when you have a negative, like start or end or point, I guess? For like when you have written in green, would that
Green?
vertical? Yeah,
Green is
if it was-
horizontal.
I know, but if that was like negative pi over 6, would you have to shift the horizontal? I mean the vertical.
Yes.
axis? Okay.
Yeah. So what I would do then is this would have come over here,
Okay.
somewhere in there.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. Wink, wink. Nudge, nudge. What do you think is coming on the next slide? Okay, try that one. So what do you want to do first? Or do you want to do anything with it? Factor, what am I going to factor out? A half. If I factor out 1/2, that leaves me with x plus 2 pi.
I was going to try to say it at the same time as you, but I missed it.
Agree?
If you divide to find that, you just
Divide what you're pulling out. Yep. Okay? Or, in your brain, do the multiplication to get back to what it is. You know what I mean? 1/2 times something has to get me back to pi, so that something has got to be 2. Okay? Or divide 1 by 1/2 and get 2. Yep. Okay? So, amplitude. Two. Middle. Low. High. Period. Period. 4 pi, pi, 2 pi is what I've heard so far. One of the 3 is right. It's 4 pi, right? Yep, because dividing by flip and multiply. Start. Where am I going to start my curve? Not negative pi. Negative 2 pi. Because I go off of this one. I go off of the factored one. Okay? Thinking opposite because it's inside. Negative 2 pi. Which means then, where's my end? It's going to end at positive 2 pi. So this is one, Eden, where I would move my vertical axes. Because we want it to be right in the middle. Okay? Cosine starts up, comes to the middle, goes down, back to the middle, goes up, right? But in this case, because I've got a negative a value, I'm going to start where? I'm going to start down, go up, get the, what is, that's the Snapchat symbol, right?
Part of it.
Isn't it? And then you just put the little ghost thing on it, right? Well, let's get the function here first, and then we'll put eyes on it. Okay, so there's that. So then now, that means over here is negative 2 pi. Here would be negative pi. Here would be 0. Here would be pi. And here would be 2 pi. Vertically, here would be negative 2. Here would be 0. And here would be positive 2. Yeah, buddy? Much better one than my first attempt, which had a little squiggle. Okay.